Hey, everybody. It's Gwendolyn Young here from your virtual admin expert, and welcome to Leading Behind the Scene, your weekly dose of inspiration to equip you to excel in business and life. Before we jump into the episode, I want to share with you about the Genius Zone. If you have been in business less than 5 years, you can be male or female, does not matter, and you are desperately seeking accountability and community, or if you have been praying for tips for creating workflows and systems in your business, tools and strategies on how to actually stop doing everything yourself, accountability to keep you from being stuck, or you've been asking for a tribe of like-minded individuals also navigating this entrepreneurial journey, then I am talking to you. The Genius Zone was created specifically for people like you, so I encourage you to go over to thegenius-zone.com and check it out. I personally lead this group of amazing entrepreneurs where we have a private community off of Facebook because they didn't want to be on the book, monthly live Q&A calls, live co-working sessions, and live monthly master classes. We support each other through idea sharing, encouragement, and resources, and we have a ton of fun doing it. So if you know you need this, put some fire under your butt, come on over and join us. So we are continuing this month to talk about persistence, staying the course and making it happen no matter what, because it's the fourth quarter, y'all, and we still got 3 months left to show 2020 who's the real boss. So tonight I am talking to the Michael Romain. Mike is the editor and staff reporter at Wednesday Journal, and he's the founder, editor-in-chief, and publisher of Village Free Press, a completely local, independent portal of information, news, reporting, analysis, and story gathering for Proviso Township. Mike has a Bachelor of Arts degree in English and Creative Writing from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and he is a Maywood native. So shout out to all the Maywood native folks out there, because your boy is on the screen. He about to get to inspire us a little bit. So this is a special episode because Mike is the first guy to be invited to the show.
I didn't know.
Yes, you are. So this is going to be a lot of fun, but I was really glad when he said yes, because I know he is super busy reporting all across the community on all the stories, and they are so good. So I have a great time following you online. And so I know that you have a great story as well on how the Village Free Press actually came to fruition. And I think people are going to be so inspired after hearing it. So Mike and I are actually cousins, but we didn't really officially meet until like what, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And don't y'all be judging us. Stop. Stop eyeballing us. Stop judging us. Y'all know y'all got folks in y'all family y'all ain't even met. So cut it out. Anywho, I don't even remember. What was our first meeting? Do you remember?
I was actually thinking about that myself. I was trying to think if I met you before or after I started writing. It may have, well, before I got
it was definitely before.
I think it was before, yeah. Because I actually, so yeah, we did meet before. And I think, you know what, it may have been when I was doing that family newsletter that we did.
That's what it was. Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, and I think you were like, yeah, this is pretty impressive. Let me connect. So,
it was so dope. That's exactly what it was. Why did we stop doing the family newsletter?
That's a good question. I got tired of it, and then I think we were supposed to, because somebody else was doing it, another family member was doing it, and then Bonnie, our cousin.
That's right.
She's like the family historian. She turned it over. Well, no, I was like, I can do this, because I was, kind of, my time was pretty free at the time. And I was just working with my dad, really.
Yep, I remember.
Kind of wanting to transition to do more, something more impactful. And so I was like, let me do this. And so I did it, and I think it was somebody else's turn at that point. I don't think
It was. I
any
think
one
it
person
was.
was supposed to keep doing it, but I guess it was, I did it so well. Maybe
You
the
did it so well that it was like, oh,
right.
Mike not doing it, so whatever.
Yes.
And it was so good because that's how we got a chance to keep up with what was happening with everybody and their kids who was graduating, whose birthday was coming
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
Family, y'all watching, I'm gonna need somebody to get back to doing that newspaper, but don't call me a Mike because we
yeah.
busy,
No,
okay?
that's a lot of work.
But that's exactly what it was, and it was so good. And I was like, this is so impressive. I need to connect with him. And I remember us getting together. I think we just kind of got together. We had a session before. We met for lunch or something. And then after that, we asked you to be on the board for Seed of Hope. So you were on the board for a little bit, which was amazing. And then you just kept saying, like, you were really looking for something to do with your time. I remember you were in between jobs. You were transitioning or something from school. And you just was like, I don't want to work a traditional job. I want to, really get into doing something with reporting or news. And I was just like, well, create your own, right? Like, do your own thing. And you was looking at me like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, just start reporting, like, do your own thing. And oh my God, did you ever just start reporting? Because Village Free Press is now this whole thing, recognized in the community, working with some other local newspapers. And I'm just so freaking proud of you, first of all, and so excited for what you're doing. So share with me, like, that journey. How did you go from family newsletter to now running a whole newspaper?
Yeah, that's funny. So yeah, you kind of refreshed my memory about how this whole thing started, and it's good that I was working with you all. You kind of were sort of an example to follow because of just you guys' tenacity and what you were doing with your business, in what you and your mom was doing with Seed of Hope, the nonprofit. And quite frankly, I hadn't seen anything like that on my side of the family, the Linyard side. My dad is sort of an entrepreneur, so I was able to look at him and to learn some things that he did, but seeing you guys and just the perseverance that you put into it, the seriousness that you put into it was really motivating. So in 2013 is when I decided to start a blog. It was just a WordPress blog. It kind of morphed from me volunteering in various respects. I volunteered for you all, and I also volunteered. So when I was out of work, had a sort of a disagreement with my dad about, we're two totally different personalities, and are just as driven. So I had to go somewhere else. And so I went to move back from Peoria to move back with my mom, who was a River Forester at the time. And so I wasn't doing anything and didn't really have any, I would have done anything. I would have went to work at McDonald's if I could, but I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And so I'm a person that I want to go to where a need is. And if you're gifted enough to be in a place where there's need for your gift, I think it'll make space for you. That's just, I really believe that. So, yeah. So I just started, volunteering, and I kind of fell into the reporting aspect or the blog because I kept coming upon some, various problems in the community of Maywood. So my mom had eventually moved out of River Forest into Maywood, back into my grandparents' home.
Okay.
And so eventually I just went and lived with my grandparents too. And so that's when I realized that like Maywood doesn't have a newspaper. It was,
wow.
I think the Pioneer Press was, it hadn't been in existence for like 2 years. It had been shut down 2 years prior. And there was really nothing else outside of this newspaper called West Suburban Journal, which still exists to a certain degree online, but it was in print at the time. And so I was like, yeah, but the first thing I remember, I vividly recall kind of doing like my version of market research, which wasn't hard to do because there was nothing there. So, but I'm the more person. I don't like to duplicate things, and I almost didn't start because I was looking at other, there's this group called Neighbors of Maywood Community Organization, and they had a website and they post community updates. And I'm like, well, they're posting something that looks like news, so, they don't need me. But I'm glad I didn't see the doubt. Yeah.
Need for comparison.
Yeah, exactly. And that was before I really knew what news, well, I didn't, go to school, or I didn't go to school for journalism. And it wasn't on the newspaper. So I was kind of new to this. But nonetheless, I was like, okay, I will consider them my competition. I won't let that deter me from doing this. Good. And I can do things that they're not doing, And so I started writing about sort of, community issues, but going where nobody else was. No other, community journalist was going. So covering village council meetings. And it was a race in spring of 2013. And that's around the time I started blogging, and I started, I interviewed every trustee in Maywood that was running.
I remember that.
Every mayor.
I would be like, where's Mike? They'd be like, Mike riding around with the police somewhere. And
I did ride alongs, because, who else is going to ride? Nobody else is paying Maywood any attention. So it was really easy to, interview people and talk to people, especially during an election time. It was super easy. Super accessible. Everybody is accessible, and they see you have a somewhat of a platform. And so it quickly grew in a matter of month after month. I was getting more and more readers who were news starved because there was no newspaper in Maywood or Bellwood or Broadview or virtually any of the surrounding communities in Proviso Township except for Forest Park and LaGrange and maybe Riverside, Brookfield. They have their own things. So that's kind of how I got into it. It was just me going around different places and writing about it on my blog.
That's amazing. So was there a time where, you're building this business, because now you are CEO, right? You are CEO, you're editor-in-chief of a growing newspaper, a growing news source. And was there a time where you were just like, you know what, why am I doing this? I'm ready to give up. Like, was there a moment where there was like so much resistance, or where you just was like discouraged? What made you like push through and just stay persistent to see it through?
It's always that moment. I think I live in that moment. Because one, I don't consider myself at the helm of something like that's grand or anything. This is still like a,
Have you seen the Village Free Press?
Yes. Yeah, and I can break down what what exactly that entails and kind of how I make my living doing it. But I have flirted with the idea because at this point in my career, I think it could be pretty. It'd be pretty easy for me to. And I've been tempted and been offered positions of figures, So to go into like a PR position or a communications position at some local school district, and be making $96,000 a year.
So what made you? What? Like, what's your why? Tell me your why. Like,
well, the why. So my thing is that I don't get paid. I don't get that type of compensation anywhere near it doing what I'm doing now. But I would not take on a job, a PR job or a communications job, and especially if I had to give up what I'm doing now for that amount of money, because it's not enough. Because my freedom, I value way more than $100,000.
You gotta come on and say something, because that's sure enough the truth.
Yeah, and so the freedom is invaluable to me. The ability to create my own time, and then to have autonomy over what I'm doing and work I put out, and I don't have to do any BS because a boss who may not even understand my job or how to do it like I do feeding me a directive that I have to go along with, even if it's stupid.
I love
A
that.
lot of people are in jobs like that. So I think, that's why I continue to do it.
Yeah, and if you left, like, who's gonna continue to do the news? Who's gonna continue
Well, yeah,
to
right.
provide this to the
Nobody,
community?
no, there wouldn't be I think that's another reason, because of the role that I feel a sense of purpose doing it.
Yeah,
It's really like a mission to me. And I think there's some upside, quite frankly, in terms of revenue, in terms of opportunities, growth opportunities, that I haven't begun to really tap into, and that I'm starting to
yeah,
get aggressive about. So,
that's awesome. So, why do you think it's important for entrepreneurs to be persistent in the work that they do? Because
um,
I'm sure you've had some challenges in this building this thing.
incredibly important. One, well, because from my competitors' example, there may be somebody who's more persistent than you, and they're going to
Mm,
put you out of business. So, um, yeah,
that part would be important.
yeah. So I mean, it's very important to be. I mean, persistence takes many forms. And I would just say, just very, very practically speaking, I do this every day. And take West Suburban Journal, for instance, which used to be a print paper here until that didn't happen. And now my print paper, which I put out every week, is running the legal notices that
Wow.
are bread and butter. And so that's how we pay to be in print. And that's really what pays. It's roughly half of, I would say, it's a little more than half of my gross revenue for the last 2
Wow.
years. It's been that much. Even though advertising and membership and all that stuff needs to come up, that's a big part of it. And I got that because I simply outworked West Suburban Journal. I mean, and
Wow.
got hired at Wednesday Journal, which is a partner organization that helps publish the paper and employs me full time, because
Wow.
I was just a good work. And I came into a position that my publisher, my boss, had made available for me because he fired the other guy who was in it. Because he just thought I was the
Wow.
best.
So persistence leads to failure, putting your competitors out of business.
Yeah,
Like,
I'm afraid that somebody else is working harder than me all the time.
wow,
My
that's good.
competition is other organizations beyond what's in my current market. I want to be like a New York Times. I don't want to just be Village Free Press.
Okay.
I
Okay.
want to
I'll be watching.
scale it up.
Don't forget the
I
little
want to
people,
scale it up.
when when you start getting up here to the New York Times Press. Remember when your cousin called and be like, can you,
Oh, absolutely.
This is so amazing. So what would be your number one tip to someone who is really having a difficult time, like just pounding the pavement, staying the course, and working hard? What would you say to them right now?
That's a good question. You can be working hard toward an objective that you may need to discard.
Mm,
That's why I think it's really important um, to know opportunity, and to know how to kind of take advantage and seize opportunity when it comes.
that's good.
Because it's a lot of people who are working really, really hard, but they working dumb. To be honest with you. A lot of hard workers who, I mean, we have never been working. We've never been more productive as a country than we are now. And our take-home pay is less than it was 30 years ago. So I mean, it's a lot of hard workers who are working in the wrong,
Wow,
who have the
right
wrong
there.
objectives, perhaps. Yeah. So I would say no. I think it's more important to know what you should apply your energy toward.
Mhm.
So, in finance, they call it arbitrage, which is basically, you see, you sell low, and you buy low and you pay high. And with what I was doing, right now, I'm in a position where nobody else is doing what I'm doing.
Yep.
And I can always guarantee myself a sort of floor, a bottom floor of income, because I'm just in a position where I've created something that's necessary, and in applying my talent and skills and hard work in an area that in which is going to pay off. Now, if I went to New York City and tried to be a journalist, it'd be somewhat different. So I always say, work hard and work toward a clearly definable objective. And that you, for instance, I interviewed I've been able to talk to a lot of different small business owners over the course of the last month or so. And we are actually trying to build up a small business database in Proviso Township.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
That we can really create a captive audience who are going to be more likely to pay for advertising and more likely to buy memberships and things of that nature. So we want to overserve them. We want to make them think that we're vital and necessary. And so we want to grow a market in that. But in talking with different business owners, I've talked to small business owners who, for instance, I was talking to a restaurant owner in Maywood. One person, young, my age, an African-American girl my age, was in business for a few years. In business for 2 years, still doesn't have an accountant.
Oh, wow.
In business for 2 years without a website. But she goes to her restaurant every day and stays there for 12 hours.
Wow.
And is the hardest, most loneliest worker I know.
Wow.
I said most loneliest, but no, the loneliest worker.
But sometimes that's people's reality, though.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And
that's sometimes it's work.
It's exactly. And then I'll talk to a business owner in Forest Park. She owns the Brown Cow. In desperate times, like everybody else, her son decided he wants to start a GoFundMe for his mom's business. In 2 days, they raised $50,000. And so I see this, and then I'm in Maywood, and I see that,
and you're like
missing. And so
you're like, what's happening right now?
Yeah, exactly. So you can work hard, but if you don't have the network, you just spinning your wheels.
That's good.
So, hard work needs to be joined with other things like, smart business practices, and smart processes, and a thought out business plan and approach to how you want to do things. And a network is really, really powerful.
That part. I love that, because the thing about it is, if you're trying to be persistent, but you're in isolation,
right,
it's only going to last for so long.
Yeah,
you're only going to be able to keep kind of motivating yourself for so long. You have to have that community of people around you. Is so important, because you don't want to get so discouraged to the point where you don't continue on. But you also don't want to be working hard at the wrong thing. So that was a whole word too. So, oh my gosh, this was so amazing. Mike, thank you so much for your yes and spending some time with me today.
No problem.
I think this was so good for so many reasons: inspirational, informative, and even just showing us from a more local view, right? Because I'm in the virtual space more than I am in the local space. So it's good to bring it down to a local level and see that these businesses have some of the same challenges, probably even more challenges in the local space than we do in the virtual space, and how critical it is for businesses to be able to adapt when things like the pandemic or whatever comes our way, and be able to kind of change that. Even how you talked about early on, you coming into the game, there was somebody reporting, but then you came in from a different perspective with a fresh angle, a different lens to look at things, and grew that thing so large that they just kind of went on. So they probably weren't persistent either in trying to learn more about how you came in and did this thing, or to reach out and partner with you. You know what I'm saying? They kind of just was probably like, oh, okay, oh well. So lots of gems in this here thing tonight. So thank you so much for always saying yes when I call. Beautiful people, I hope that you were inspired tonight. I hope that you were educated tonight. If you enjoyed this, which I know you did, hit the love button, hit the like button, share it with anybody else that you think might need to hear this message. Leave us a comment, tell us your key takeaways, your thoughts. We would love to hear from you. Be sure to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Your Admin Expert, and be sure to subscribe to the email list on the website at yourvirtualadminexpert.com for more tips and tools and strategies that I don't typically share on social media. Mike, tell the beautiful people how they can connect with you.
I got like 9 different emails, but I think there's one. BF Press. Okay. Info at bfpress.com is the shortest one.
Perfect. And remember to subscribe to the Village Free Press at vfpress.news. I was about to say .com, but .news, and make a donation. Remember, this is an independent newspaper run by a young Black male in our community doing some positive things. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for tuning in.
It's info at bfpress.news. You were right.
Oh, perfect. Yep, it's .news. I knew it was because I looked it up before, because I was like, I don't want to get it wrong. I'm so used to saying .com all the time. I didn't want to get it wrong.
Right.
So guys, that was info at vfpress.news for the email, and then the website is vfpress.news. So make sure you go visit, subscribe, make a donation, support, share it on your social medias, do all of the things. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you next week for another segment of Leading Behind the